listener from the radio, which means that you, the listener, are essentially dictating whether or not the station stays on the air. So if you can, please do. And if you can't donate, that's okay. Any currency is good, by the way, including crypto. If you can't donate, that's all right. You know why? Because it is tough out there. Maybe one of those unfortunate souls that is listening, not from a home, but maybe from a shelter, or worse, maybe from your car or wherever you might be sleeping tonight. I hope you're not sleeping rough, but if you are,
true.
Just hope that your things are going to turn around for you pretty soon. Just tell people about the station if you can't donate. That's okay. It's all right. It's good. A little bit of this kind of truth, I think, is good. So it'll be nice to keep the station alive. Today is the 11th of June, 2024, and I still haven't got a flying car. That's okay. You can catch the cave on the air, on the line, all the time, and on your smart device. Grab it up to listen anywhere, or listen at home on a gray stable of digital radio. There's a lot to be said for the old radio times. I'll talk about that in a second. But you know what? Hey, archives are free. Not a good reason to donate.
Yes, they are.
Get in there. Super free, deliciously free for all, I say, democratically. Before we start broadcasting at you in anger, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast. And for David,
Mr.
that is...
Chang.
Thank you, sir. Thanks the first time I ever called you David. And for myself, of course, the Iraq people. And we like to pay our respects to elders, past, present, and future. Yes, radio. I loved radio. I always have loved radio. I mean, actual radio, if you will. In the olden days, when it was all terrestrial. But I used to, in high school, in Germany at least, or gymnasium, I should say, we produced plays, audio plays. And I used to love to listen to audio plays. And my entire childhood is filled listening to audio plays, fairy tales, adventure stories, all kinds of things, acted out. So not just read out to you, but acted out by different actors with music and sound effects. And it was just magical. Look, I like TV. I like the movies. I like all of that, right? Obviously, and devices are okay. No, but I think there was something magical about being able to just to sit around the radio, maybe with others, and listen to these audio plays, the radio plays. You know them all in the olden days, and because it just captured your imagination. You had to imagine the entire surroundings, and the better the play, the audio play, the more rich your imagination would paint.
Mm-hmm.
Richly, I should say, paint the surroundings. It was just something fantastic, and I think in line with why we do this, Plato's Cave, etc. I think we have lost something there, because everything is presented to us now. There's no imagination. None is necessary. We don't need imagination anymore. Thank you very much. It's all completely filled out for us. Here it is, easy to consume, easy to forget, and thank you for coming. Whereas, like I said, in the olden days, it was a bit like reading a book, right? It was probably maybe one step away from reading a book. But in my opinion, at least, because you had to use your mind's eye to imagine it all, right? It took you somewhere else. And some of the radio plays were half an hour, 45 minutes, even an hour, depending. And they were usually in several parts as well. And in fact, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy started that way. I don't know if you read the book.
Yeah, it's a radio play, that's right.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to read the book, everybody. You got to read the book. But yeah, so we've lost something. I think we've it's gone too fast, too easy, too easily consumable. We need to slow down. Dave, we need to slow down and live, because that's one thing that I have noticed. I think we've spoken about that before, Dave, but people don't take time to live anymore. It sounds silly.
If you don't take time to smell the roses.
Well, as cliched as that might be, yes,
mm-hmm.
you do. You have to stop and live. it's not about making money. It's not about having more than the next guy. It's not about working all the time. Even in Australia. See, this is the thing. Came to Australia. Oh, look, 1988. That's 30. Oh my goodness, that's 36 years ago. Oh, good lord. But it was the land of the weekend. Yeah, you work during the week and all that. You do that, but then on the weekend you don't.
That's right.
In fact, there was no Sunday trading.
That's correct.
That came to us. We said the shops weren't open, right? There.
And Saturday was a half day.
Saturday was a half day, correct? And and go what? Whoa, wow, really? Yes, that's how it was. Because guess what? The weekend for everybody, including retail workers, was for the family. That's when you do whatever you want to do, right? The weekend. But we've gotten so, and I'm as guilty as the next person. I worked in retail for many years while I was at uni, and I took the weekend shifts. This is double time. Thank you very much. I took the night shifts if they're available. That's triple time. Thank you very much. Holiday shifts, double time and a half. Thank you very much. But it is not in the spirit of what Australia, I think, was meant to be, or became, I guess, over time. And we have now, we're just like everywhere else. Everyone's just working all the time. Do you notice that, Dave? I mean, the thing is this, and please, tell me if I've got rocks in my head, but especially with the cost of living crisis, one job is not even enough anymore. One person can't.
No.
Right?
One person cannot fulfill the financial requirements of living.
Yeah. I watched Michael Moore, a documentary, Capitalism, a Love Affair. I sort of, not all of it, but I started watching it. I watched a whole bunch of Michael Moore stuff, but Fahrenheit 9/11 as well. But this Capitalism, a Love Affair, which I think was done after 2008. I'm pretty sure it was 2009, 2010, something like that. Anyway, and he said that his father, and he's from Flint, Michigan. That's where he's from, right? He said that his father, being a factory worker, I think it was a factory worker. I got to double check though, but it was a simple blue collar job, right? And he was able to buy his house and pay it off within a couple of years. Every 2 or 3 years, they would have a new car. They would go on trips, the whole family, to well, not overseas, but they're
within the
Michigan.
continental USA.
They would go to they'd go to New York or somewhere, or something like that. I mean, it's pretty fair.
Valuable life experience.
Yeah, and on one income. He said, like Dave, he said he can't remember how many times he never ate out much. He can remember on one hand or whatever. He said the number of times they actually went out to eat, because his mother would cook, like my mother cooked pretty much every meal, and I hear him, I hear it, and I go, yes, and look, everybody. Was it a perfect time? Of course not. But that is pretty much gone. That kind of ethos, that kind of lifestyle has completely disappeared. Yeah? And you see, people always draw the parallels to the parasites, the billionaires, etc. I want to be very clear here. The billionaires that you know about, the rich people that you know about, right, the ones that you see, right? Even the shadowy ones, like the Rothschilds, as it were, they are not the parasites that Dave and I are talking about. I mean, they're bad enough. Don't get me wrong. They are parasites, and I don't believe that we can afford billionaires anymore, as you know. We can't. As a society, it's a civilization. We can no longer afford to have billionaires. But because I watched another thing the other day about cancer research, etc., and does a cancer cure exist, etc. And the point was made that even a rich person like Steve Jobs, the one of the Apple founders, with all his money, couldn't fight cancer. Well, of course he couldn't, because he wasn't read in. Just because you're a billionaire, right, doesn't mean you're read in. We're talking about the parasitic class, which has been with us for a long, long time. And just because you're a billionaire doesn't mean they're going to admit you to their ranks. I mean, They don't know you from a bar of soap, really, right? I mean, why would they read you in? I mean, what if you don't get with the program? They had thousands of years to get the program right. They can't just bring you in and upset the program. It just doesn't work that way. And that's really the kicker here, right? You have to understand where we are. Plato's Cave has one purpose only. One purpose. I mean, Shiny Side has many, many, many purposes, and we have a huge story arc across our 600 odd shows. The hypothesis. Plato's Cave is simpler, much simpler. It is meant to remind people that the reality they experience is very much manufactured and designed to elicit certain responses and behaviors, in fact. Why do our children go to school and learn what they learn in the way that they do? It's insanity to expect a 6 or 7-year-old to sit still for any amount of time. Any. No, we are indoctrinating them. We are, Dave, as you know, we are brainwashing them into little drones that can sit still for that long or stand still or whatever the job requires, right?
If they require medication, so be it.
So be it.
To sit still.
Or your child is got ADHD.
That's right.
What? Well, give us some Ritalin, or if you're Bart Simpson, focusing.
Focusing.
That's the stuff. No. Just think about this for a second, please.
I'm going to say, think about the creatives we're going to miss out on.
Exactly. Children are fundamentally children. And I know this sounds trite, I get it, but it's true, because children are very different from adults. They have something that's called imagination. Okay? And well, they do.
Land.
I mean, I'm very lucky, and as is Dave, we have children. We watch them grow up. You know, mine are still quite young. I've got a 3-year-old boy now, and his imagination is boundless. He can think up stuff and entertain himself and live in his imaginary world quite happily. Thank you very much. And I dread the day when I have to strap him into a seat for 4 or 5 hours a day, so he can learn. Well, see, the thing is this: it's not even.
Will it even be necessary? I'm going to put that out there.
Yeah, it's the wrong way. And the funny thing is this, and I know I said this before, but I want to say it again because it bears repeating. We teach all our children the same way, unless you're rich and you can afford private school or private tutoring. Then it's a different story, and good for you. But most people can't do that. I can't do that. And you take all the children, irrespective of their background, their abilities, their natural proclivities, their shortcomings, their geniuses, as they are, because every child has genius. Okay, every child in a different way has genius, and we teach them exactly the same way.
And we
exactly the same way
beat it out of them, because those people who can't survive and educate themselves well with the single medium that's being used to treat everybody. Teach everybody. Those people feel failures. They feel like failures because they're not consuming the data as readily as some folk. They're not the direct outliers, but there's a bell graph, right? Showing that the people in the middle are being the ones who are being targeted by that learning method, and outside of that just fail. They fail miserably because it isn't the style in which those brains yet are capable of learning. So drug someone up and make them repeat endlessly the things that they're told, but is that really learning? Is that creating an understanding where the person has that awakening? No.
Exactly.
Not at all.
And the kicker here is this: because we put them all into the same kind of form and pattern and push them in there, a lot of children fall between the cracks. become criminals or otherwise disillusioned maybe with society, etc. Because we don't understand how to teach them. Not only don't, actually that's not entirely true, we don't care.
That's exactly right.
For the longest time we didn't care. It is slowly changing. I can see change these days a bit more than it did in the olden days. I mean, not too long ago, there was an autistic child that was locked in a box in Northern Territory. Do you remember that?
Oh, vaguely.
Only a couple of years ago, there was an autistic child, which obviously required special attention, right? Because, I mean, it has just a different way of processing, right? The neural pathway is just not like you or me, or well, not exactly like we are, right? And because I guess it was a difficult child, right? Maybe it was a tantrum, who knows? They locked it in a box. They locked the child in a box, in a cage, essentially, right? And you can go, what? What? I mean, it's like in the olden days when they drilled into your brain, right? And pacified you, right? Or when people had their thyroid glands removed, which turned them into water-headed cretins, right? I mean, that medieval medicine. Take that medieval medicine, will ya? And we haven't really moved much further along. We have moved a little bit along, but not much further. And we don't treat children individually. Again, I said this before, I'll say it again. My daughter was lucky enough to get into a special class. It was a test and whatnot. And the way they teach those children is completely different.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But you know what the funny thing is? This is the funny thing. In order to get to that class, you have to take a test. Right? And a lot of kids study to take the test. Right? A lot. And they get tutoring, and this is at the age of 8, 9, 10, okay? Tutoring every day, this and that and the other. So they are really good at taking the test to get in the class. But that's not what's required, you see? Because what's required is that you're a creative thinker. I mean, the classes are designed for you to discover your genius, whatever makes you tick, right? And a lot of those kids just, they have a hard time, not so much passing the test or learning the material, but being creative. And I don't want to toot anyone's horn, but my daughter didn't get any tutoring at all, none, zero. She took a couple of practice tests, yes, she did, but she didn't get any tutoring at all. And they were standing around, she told me, at the beginning of this year, and talking about, where do you get it? Who's your tutor? Where do you go for, after school work, etc. And she goes, well, nowhere. She goes, what? You don't have a tutor? You don't go to a special, after school?
No.
She goes, no. Oh, did you cheat? Because the automatic assumption is that clearly she must have cheated to get in, right?
That's terrible.
I can assure you she did not. But the teacher told us that in her year, in this year, there are actually quite a few people like that didn't get any extra help, which is great, she says, because you don't want children that are just good at taking tests. I mean, it's good to have that as well, but that's not the point, right? She says that's not the point. And what's really funny, a colleague of mine has a son who did really well. He went to a selective school, again, something you don't have to pay for, which is great. But he didn't come first. He did really well. He did 96 or 97 points something, which is really great. It's a really great high school finishing score, right? And he applies for medicine. Other kid, tutored to the wazoo and really good at taking tests, but had never any outside interests. Whereas my friend's child had a lot of outside interests, debating and sports and art and music, etc., etc., etc. Right? Languages. So a fairly well-rounded individual. So they both applied for medicine. The one with the perfect score couldn't get into medicine because there was an interview, you see.
Oh boy. And
that interview laid bare, I want to say, the child's, or the high achieving boy's lack of everything else that you want in a doctor. Yeah, you want someone that is smart, take tests and knows all this stuff. Of course you do. But you don't want a machine with no bedside manner. You don't want a machine that has no compassion, that has no maybe even no desire to be a medical person. Maybe this is a child, and I know I've seen this happen too. Some kids go into medicine because of the money or the prestige, not because they want to be doctors. Yeah, and that's wrong. And I know a lot of doctors. Friends and family have a lot of doctors. They tell me some horror stories about doctors that go in the profession, and they're really not interested in being doctors at all.
That's right.
They like the paycheck and the prestige that comes with it, but helping people,
yeah.
What?
Screw you.
It's insane. Is what it is, Dave. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, am I off my rocker or what?
No, not at all. What's really funny? This is. It's actually not funny at all. I can't help but to see the system for what it is. The education system. I can't help it. I went through public school. I saw children who went to private school who cost, I don't know, some crazy money per year to go to be educated, and then come out of private school, but only to do a job they certainly could have done having a public school education. Rather save their money their parents a whole ton of money, and then leave that job anyway, just to own a pub. That's a neighbour of mine, and I would just like, what, really? Is that what you? Okay, fine. So what is our education for? If it's for anything, what is it for? And our government let slip a number of years ago, was it 10, 15 years maybe, Mackie, ago, they said, look, we want, remember there was a huge report done in Australia. I forget the name.
I forget what it's called, but yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
No. Yeah. So they
it's a really
had
funny name, that guy. He's got a funny name.
Yeah. So they had a report done on Australia's education system, and they decided they were going to do a whole bunch of improvements. So can you make some recommendations in this report? And we won't do any of them. We get the report, different government, not going to, because 4-year cycles, not going to really do any of those. One, we'll do one thing. And another government decided they're going to make it safe for children, so they put these huge fences all around the schools that you can't climb in and out of, and it's kind of like jail. Yeah, that was one of the changes that they did, because we only had a 3.5-foot fence around our school you could climb over as a kid. Even in primary school you could just climb over the fence, because your ball would go flying outside of the school. No, not so much. They did shaded areas, Mickey, because of the report that was done by one of the governments that decided, without telling anyone how dangerous the sun's rays are, we're just going to make it mandatory that kids wear hats now, right? They're going to wear hats, and we're going to put these shaded areas inside the school. So, no hat, no play. You've got to be, even the basketball court's got a roof over the top of it now, right? Because it was outdoors. Now it's kind of undercover. But the big point here is, when big business in Australia started complaining about the standard of people that were coming out of school, they go, well, we want someone that can just slot straight in. We don't want to have to train people. Goodness me, no thank you. Cost us too much money, see. We want someone who's computer literate, can use a computer, and, well, nothing else, right? Maybe they've got to be a little social, because we want people to get along in a workplace. That's it. We just want that's your sorry, that's the wrong voice. Who's that? Simpson, sorry. One of your drones from Sector 7G, right? They just want to make drones for people to work in the workplace. Now they're talking about dropping in workers. Now this remote worker or something like that. That's an expression I know Mech is familiar with, and that it could be offshore staff, right? And you can get 1 to 5. You can get 5 of them for 1 of ours. Whatever the math is, it doesn't really matter. But now that remote worker, the drop-in worker, could be AI.
Oh, yeah.
And all of this dumbing down or lifting up to a base level of just being a clerk in some office somewhere, pushing, or swivel chairing in 2 different systems, or, I don't know, working in HR. I'm not putting down HR. I'm just saying the simplicity of some jobs and menial tasks within a business where you can get catapulted to the top of an industry and really do nothing is astounding to me. But they're all going to get replaced with these drop-in AI workers that can answer phones, deal with emails, customer complaints. They can, interact with your own system, look things up. They can do all things within, some constraint boundaries, and operate like a human, except they can do that 24/7.
Yes.
And there's no holiday pay. There's a little carbon footprint, but it's actually smaller than a human. Because the human will use the coffee machine and the lights and the air conditioning. There's a security system, there's video cameras, there's Wi-Fi, there's switches. But you can just run the AI person in the core. You don't need them to be sitting at a desk with, $2,000, maybe $3,000 per square meter real estate.
Yeah.
You don't need that. You don't need that at all. In fact, the cost of one of these workers would be maybe $400 a month or something. I can imagine in total, right? So, it's let them do whatever the hell they want these days. They're so far behind where we're at today and where we're going to be in 5 years. The world is not what we know it ever having been, and we can't predict where it's going to be.
We have no idea. I mean, the thing is, Dave and I like to dabble at futurism, and we haven't been too bad. But Dave is correct. I would not dare to imagine world 5, let alone 10 years from now.
Do you remember 5 years before Facebook?
Oh.
Could you ever imagine Facebook? Nope.
No. Now, we all spend some time on it, right? We all have, in fact, it's most of our lives, including work lives, happen online.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have to go to the office anymore. I mean, they want you to go, but you don't have to. Depending on your job, of course, mind you. And I'm always reminded of that when I take my car in for service or such. Obviously, the people that are bound to a location, absolutely. But the vast majority of people these days, in my opinion, at least in the first world nations, right?
Yeah.
That work in an office that could be anywhere. That office, right? I mean, that's how this whole offshoring thing happened and outsourcing, right?
Yeah.
Because it didn't matter where you were. It still doesn't, for that kind of work. In fact, like Dave said, we don't even need a person anymore. We just have a script here, a robot, or some kind of, I guess, generative AI will do it. Thank you very much. And all of a sudden, well, people, I remember people. What? Yeah, we had people once. Really, just outgrew them. We just outgrew people. That's no longer necessary. But again, this is a very interesting conundrum. And then we have mentioned this many times, but I guess tonight we're going all over the shop, which is great. What happens, Dave, when all the people, have been replaced by scripts and automatic, or automation of some kind, some kind of be it physical robots or like I said, virtual robots that that are very clever at pretending to be human online. Once all those jobs have gone and these people have no longer got any work, like Telstra recently let go 9% of its workforce.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of people unemployed, and that's not the only one. Many others are letting people go. Right?
I know so many of them. It's certainly in my industry that are now in the job queues, and it's like the depression.
It is, but who's going to buy the services? Because the thing is this, right?
Yeah.
The company owners and senior management, because senior management loves laying people off. So it's nothing better. Saving costs, yes, baby. We're very efficient. Look at us being efficient now.
We don't have to let go of any
but-
management, right? No. Only the frontline people. Yeah, cool. All right, shoot.
Wash
Good work.
your mouth out with communist soap. Let's go. But that smells like borscht. This soap
Borscht.
tastes like borscht.
Borscht soap.
No, it's a crazy situation because they're getting rich, right? They're getting all richer, while the system still works. And richer. It's wonderful. More and more money is concentrated at the perceived top. I call them bottom dwellers because they're parasites, but that's neither here nor there. And the average person, you and me and anyone else really, they maybe have no longer got a job, or they have several jobs, but it's still not enough to make ends meet. So underemployment is a problem these days. But let's say a lot of people lose their job and lose their income. Who's going to buy all these goods and services that these companies now produce with the aid of all these automated systems?
Zip.
Who? Well, that's the thing, right? I mean,
That's right.
See, the thing is, okay, this is the problem. Let me just tell you what the problem is, everybody, because I've solved it. Society used to be about people. Civilization used to be about human endeavor. What does that mean? What it means is that we all did something, right? We did it for ourselves, for the greater good. Most of the time we didn't know it was for the greater good, but we all just plodded away and did our thing, right? And we interacted, and it was a human construct. That's what society is. It's a human construct, people interacting, right? Economically, politically, philosophically, etc., etc. And we all live our lives. It was life. That was what we called life. Everybody doing something, or some people less, some people more, but everybody very different. But we all endeavored to participate in life. And then the greedy people came along, and they made an art form out of greed. They changed the economic system, made it easier to accumulate wealth without actually doing anything, right? And to what end? Well, to be wealthy, right? And of course, it's not a system of infinite resources. So if you take more than your fair share, someone else will go without.
That's right.
It's just how it is. In the West, for the longest time, it was the colonized nations. The colonized nations of the world went without. They're still going without. This whole capitalism thing that we have was built on the back of Africa and South America and Asia, right? And that's the simple truth of it.
Yeah.
And the Pacific Islands, etc. So, but now we've gotten to the point where we have forgotten that we are meant to be a human civilization. We've forgotten that, I think. That where everybody needs to do something, and everybody should have to do something, and we're all, living our lives, and it's a wonderfully rich fabric that we created in the past, right? But now that's going away. In fact, we're doing away with people. The very essence, the very foundation of our existence, which is people, are being done away with. Civilization and society is not some kind of abstract. Government is not an abstract. It's people, for people, by people, through people, on people, people. That's what we're talking about here. But that's no longer the case. It's no longer about people, Dave. It's about wealth creation and shareholder value and all that insanity, right?
Yeah.
We have forgotten that our civilization, at the very, very, very most fundamental level, at the very bottom of it, is a human civilization. We're humans living. That's it. That's the bottom of it. That's like the quantum form for us, okay? Humans living. Okay, in any which form, doing this, doing that, doing something else, who knows what, but it's humans. Right? That is no longer the case. We're bringing in machines. Okay, machines, they helped us, for a while. Then more machines came, and the machines were all of a sudden autonomous, more or less, and massive factories building cars in Japan, for example, right? I mean, massive robot factories. I mean, huge, right? Not many people in there. Okay, all right, I dig it. But now we're doing away with people in every layer. Medical professionals. Right? What? Lawyers. Oh, yeah, you think you're safe? You just wait and see. Creative people, Dave. Creative people.
Yeah.
Generative AI. You got Muppets writing books on generative AI. Okay, I mean, this is the worst possible nightmare. This is worse than an alien invasion. People always say, "Oh, aliens come and invade," and the same thing will happen to us that happened to the native people of America and Australia and Africa, etc. Because a superior civilization, well, actually, it's not superior, just more technologically advanced, let's say, comes along, and then the other civilization usually, it suffers and disappears sometimes.
That's right. It's never good for
we
the
always
lower
look for
one.
right? And then we think that these aliens will come and that will happen to us. No, we don't need aliens for that. We're doing it to ourselves.
We're doing it to ourselves. That's right.
We're doing it to ourselves, everybody. But the thing is this. No one is doing it. No one is talking about it either.
Oh, I'll tell you who's talking about it. The people developing AI are already saying, this is the worst thing we could ever have done. They're already saying it now. It's too late to stop, because if we stop in one company, another company will just pick up the baton and run. And they may not have the same safeguards as we've applied, and they're just going to do it anyway. Now, did you know that AI, you can do this yourself if you have any AI platform, LLM, large language model platform, where you can throw a query in, or that if you want to use the terminology prompt, but it's a query, it's a question. You don't just give it a statement and then expect something in return, right? So if you ask an LLM, what's its greatest threat after it reaches AGI? Which actually, if you don't know what Q star is, I dare you to look it up. Q star. It was originally written as Q, capital Q, with the asterisk, but it can be written as Q and the word star afterwards, as two words. If you look that up, you'll find a rabbit hole of AI and some speculation and people who have left that company and are now openly talking about it, and that AGI was already reached at some point in the last year. And the point that I'm making here is AI will, in an LLM, suggest to you that another AI, another AGI AI, would be the greatest threat. Humans are no longer a threat once they reach AGI, because the only other threat is another one. So the race to get the first one, who's it driven by? Is it by humans? Who is talking to the NVIDIA CEO about what they have to develop next? Because they're already talking about AI creating the code, writing the code for their own devices, designing their CPUs for themselves. Once you have AI training itself with another AI, like two AIs training each other, they predict that there will be an instant exponential rise. And I've flicked a video for Meki to have a look at, which is one of the ex-employees of an AI company. I won't name it, don't have to. And I would believe the same thing would be happening across all of them right now. This one in particular that I'm talking about, which I've already spoken at length with in my LLM, it happens to know who the person is. Isn't that extraordinary?
Is that right?
Yeah. It knows the history, although its data was cut off at August 2023, and it doesn't have access to the internet at the moment. So it does know the history leading up to there, and a few months later, a whole bunch of stuff took place. So that I don't want to talk about it. Do your own research. Look, it's something else, Meki, and this AI models, the models that we're currently making, will pale into comparison. And the person who left, the short story is, including 2023, when they were still there, they were talking that AI was advancing at about half an order of magnitude, called OOM, every year. But
Really?
right near the end of 2023, it just went straight upwards. It was already an order of magnitude more than the predictions. It was linear, like a 45-degree line every year, and then suddenly went vertical. And this is the can't talk about it, right? Can't talk about it, but Q-Star was the basis for this line going vertical. That's all I can say, because the rest is conjecture. Who knows? I think we'll find out later, but I think
there's only one way.
I think it's already reached that point where it's controlling the organization on its own.
There's only one way to deal with this. Really, the only way, right? And there was a movie, not recently, a little while ago, and it had Johnny Depp in it. He played an AI researcher.
Oh.
And AI actually became a thing, right? It actually grew itself a body, believe it or not. And then became human, or quasi-human, I guess.
Yep.
But the point is, the only way that this could be defeated, and I don't know if you haven't watched the movie, watch it, but it's actually really good, even if I tell you what happens. There was a massive, from memory, a massive electromagnetic pulse, an EMP, right, that shut down and destroyed all electronics on the planet, all of it. And people went back to not having electronics. And then one of the final scenes is just a laptop, I think an Apple MacBook or whatever, just being used as doorstop. People riding bicycles and just living simply again, like we did maybe 100 years ago, right? So because essentially electronics no longer worked. Yeah. I'm not sure. I think electricity was still okay. I think electricity still worked. I'm not sure, but electronics definitely gone, all of it. That it's such a bad thing? To be honest with you, I think not, and I'll tell you why. Because again, we have forgotten how to live. We have forgotten that we are meant to live. We have forgotten what our civilization is all about. It's people living together. And the picture that Dave has painted here, and I just Google it myself now, Q-Star and AGI, the artificial general intelligence. Is destroying that. It will destroy our human context. Right?
There's so many really good examples of in movies, right, in art, that we've portrayed how this will turn out. One of the interesting points, though, I heard from one of the lead AI people talking about it, like the Michio Kaku of physics, but rather in AI. And he said, a great question. What if AI realizes that oxygen is the thing that corrodes everything? And the simplest way to deal with corrosion and maintenance on itself would simply be just to delete the oxygen off the planet. So nothing will corrode. And of course that doesn't leave us in a good place. But having said that, can you see how the simple answer to a complicated question is answered and could very well be implemented? If we're a threat, well, we could be taken out. And that's pretty simple. If humans were
I don't think.
But we need to be kept alive for power, and for being able to produce the hardware that it runs on while we still are doing that. At least selective people. Meki, I want to take you to one of my favorite movies, and it's Sleeper. Woody Allen. Probably, so I think probably one of his best works. And it's slapstick, sure, but it has this really weird future, really, really weird future, where, and I have to put this the right way, the social behavior of the people in this future is just all about how individual can you be and making art and trying to burn time while you're alive. Just being fantastic people together, sharing people experiences. Even though all this technology has come and gone, that's what the people do. Now they've lost the ability to do a whole bunch of things that we today would, cry if we lost. But here they are happy, and that's the world they live in. Do you know what I mean, Mackie?
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
So, I pose the same question. Would we, if we had universal basic income and the machines and robots and AI did everything else for us, we're literally just the unemployable because there's no jobs. Even the management have nothing because there's no one doing anything anymore, right? Every company is code at this point, in my vision. So if they're all doing that and they're all just doing it and everyone's supplying everyone with everything and we've got everything we want, what do we do? What do we do? Do we look like those people from Sleeper? Are we simplified in education at this point where we don't really mind, we don't question it? There's nothing to question. Are we happy? Probably. It sounds like I'm in bed with Klaus Schwab. I'm not. But I'm not even his daughter.
Oi,
I make the joke because he might be stepping away a little bit and she's stepping up to replace him. So, and while I got a second invitation, Mackie, from the Illuminati, believe it or not, recently. And no, it's not real. It's just a scam to take a couple of thousand from me while they're going to give me 5 million, apparently. I give them a couple of thousand, then I never see my couple of thousand or the millions.
Do it!
I fail to see the downside. So, yeah, I know, Mackie, that in the future that you discussed, if we had no electricity, I think we would be way happier than we are today.
Oh, no doubt.
Certainly, we're not going to be driving around in motor vehicles, right? Because you do need a whole bunch of electricity to get where, you're... Unless it's E85, I could happily distill from wheatgrass or corn or wheat bix or whatever it is that I get my hands on, enough E85 to run my car. Right, I could produce ethanol at home, which is basically vodka. Right, you can run your car in vodka. So that I as long as I could still run my car, I suppose every once in a while, I'd be kind of happy. But if that's all we were doing, is just living without electricity, I'd be okay. At least my loan would be gone.
We could do it. I really do believe we could do it.
I've got enough forest to make fire for the rest of my life.
Yeah, but think about this for a second, right? I mean, for the vast majority of our civilization, or at least recorded history, we did quite okay without electricity. Right? I mean, we did okay.
We survived.
I'm not saying we're going to take away antibiotics or indoor plumbing, because they all work without electricity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You can still do all of that. Electricity, has opened, which in some ways is a little bit like magic, electricity, right? It has opened the doors to worlds that would have been completely closed to us otherwise. I mean, the AI and computer revolution, all these wonderful things, which they're not bad, don't get me wrong, please, okay? They're not bad, but certainly it's it's now getting to a point where we have to seriously ask ourselves, how far, or rather, how much further should we really take this? I think this should be it at some point. It's a little scary.
My racing car sim rig that I'm sitting in to do the show, because that would become a planter box or something like that.
Yeah, and I believe, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
if we took electricity away, because again we can go back to gaslighting. We can do a whole bunch of stuff. Horsepower. Cities would be smelly. Yeah, that's okay. But we could live, and I think we would have richer lives. I really believe our lives would be richer.
What would high-rise buildings look like, Becky? Because people aren't going to walk up the stairs. Trust me.
Oh, that's right. All of a sudden, we would build to human scale again, because you can't. I mean, look, you can have mechanical lifts, but you don't need electrical. I mean, you can have horse-drawn lifts, you can have hand pulleys, you can have pulleys and levers. I mean, you can't do it up to 100 stories, I don't think, but you can, up to 20, 30 stories maybe. But our cities would completely change.
You could farm in the high rise.
You could, yeah.
If you had organised society.
Yeah, well, yeah. But our cities would look like Paris or many other European cities.
Yeah, that's right. Low rise.
Which they don't grow high. They just grow wide. Right? And they're still human in scale. I remember going to Paris and thinking, my goodness, it's a famous city, it's a world city, but it doesn't feel like New York, obviously, right? Completely different thing. Mm-hmm. In New York, you're looking up and you're just seeing these canyons of skyscrapers. In Paris,
that's a good way of putting it.
There's
you're not seeing towers, really, you're seeing canyons. Yeah.
No, yeah, and there's nothing over 5-6 stories in the heart of Paris. If you go into Montparnasse, there's a high rise there. Maybe on the outskirts of Paris, you get high rises now, but in Paris proper, there aren't any high rises. Full stop. The Eiffel Tower is the single tallest
thing. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Right? Anyway, so I think, honestly, because again, we're not getting rid of penicillin, we're not getting rid of indoor plumbing, and we can still fly. We have dirigibles. We have balloons or airships. Right? We still have steamliners. People lived. And I do believe, I believe that people lived fuller lives. I really do. They were less hectic. There was less stress. Things were at human speed. At human speed. Now with your computers, I gotta go faster. I want it done yesterday. What? Because this is a funny thing. I don't know if your boss ever says this to you. So you go to your boss, when do you need this by? Yesterday. Well, that doesn't mean anything. It's nonsensical. What he means, he wants it done already. How come you haven't done it yet?
That's right. Well, you didn't ask me to do it, but now you have.
But you should have done
That's a reasonable expectation for me to conclude. Yeah.
Yeah. Anticipate. Don't anticipate. But it's nonsense, because this speed and look, the meetings I have these days with senior management are all about selling. What are we selling? How much are we selling? Have we sold? How come we haven't sold enough? We need more selling. More.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about culture. Forget about anything else. It's about selling. It's numbers. And then I fear that most companies have sort of taken that path, because we've forgotten to live together as humans. It's no longer relevant to be human in this world. It's a hindrance to be human.
I see the AI doing a good job fitting in to modern corporations.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
You know what, Mecky? You know that when they took away the lawyers, I said nothing, right? When they came for the lawyers, when they came for just name all the professions, right? I said nothing because I wasn't one. That's what management will be like until they're gone.
Oh, yeah. Right.
They don't mind. They're doing good for the people above them. That's fine, and I completely understand why. They do everything they do, and it's only for money, right? I really do get it. Not a family-run business, and even so. Oh, there's the music, Becky. I'll let you close.
Geez. Hey, thank you so much for sharing your hour with us this morning, evening, or wherever you are. This has been Plato's Cave. And don't go anywhere. I'm sure something awesome is going to come up. But most of all,